It's a snowy day in February 2004, and we're on Grove Street in Keysville to meet a guy. We've tried to hook up with him a few times and finally got here. You had to wait till it snowed, Tom Barber, didn't you? How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Gordy?
I'm doing great. We drove up to his house today, and I fully expected him to turn the Christmas tree lights on because we're going to have another 5 or 6 inch snowfall. The reason we're here is twofold. First of all, Tom and his wife Wanda are wonderful people. Tom is North Country through and through. And if you haven't heard about a book called A Cabin by the Creek, you're going to hear a lot about it before we finish our program today. And you're also going to see something you got a glimpse of when we started the program, some wonderful models. I drove up the road, and I expected to see a nice log cabin by the side of the road. This cabin is in your imagination.
It certainly is.
Oh, my goodness. Go ahead.
As the novel was.
Yeah, well, I was talking yesterday with a good friend of mine, Cindy Potts, who writes in local newspapers and things, and we talked about imagination, and we talked about creativity, and we talked about inspiration, and we both agreed that it's not that we're so smart, but something up there inspires us, something out there inspires us. And I'll bet when you wrote this book, you got through and you say, I wonder where parts of that came from. You wonder where that inspiration comes from.
I think the inspiring part of writing this novel, as far as I'm concerned, was the fact that my illnesses that I have had and the state of depression and things like that that go along with it, requires that you do double duty, I guess, when you start to feel better. To compensate for, I fought my way out of it. I fought my way back to a fairly reasonable health. I do have my downfalls, but some people never do. Some people don't survive the illnesses that I've had.
I guess it's been kind of tough. We're going to get into some more of that.
And the funny thing about these models and my book, my novel, is the fact that I built the models before I had the serious problems. And then I didn't know what I was going to do with them. And then I had a couple of serious heart attacks and rendered me totally disabled. And I said, jeepers, I've got a lot of time on my hands, so I'm going to, yeah. Why don't I do like other people do, take what I've got, my talent, and take it around to these people, mostly seniors in nursing homes and, health facilities and senior places where they live, and demonstrate what I do to them, and take their time up, help them fulfill some of their time. And the idea just kept growing and growing, and I said, well, jeepers, how am I going to do that? So I said, I've got to have some kind of a story while I'm setting this stuff up. It takes quite a little while to set up the display. And I said, the only way I'm going to do it, I'm going to have to fabricate some kind of a little tale to captivate their attention until I can get set up, and then explain what this is and what that is. Because as you'll see, as we get into some of the detail on these buildings, everything is functioning. Everything has a function, and it actually operates. So you have to be able to explain that. And I started jotting down little notes and writing early in the morning. I'm an early riser. And I started penning in little notes, little things, paragraphs, and I started putting them together. I developed a pretty strong character, And I said, hey, I kind of like this. So I took this character. I said he's got to have a wife. So here I am, you know. I'm not a writer. I'm not an author. I am an author, but I'm definitely not a writer, even though I've written a novel, and I never will be. But I started with this one strong character, developed a whole bunch of characters, and these characters built the story. And that's how it, the Cabin by the
I've
Creek.
had so many authors tell me after you get the characters, they start speaking for themselves.
They do. They tell
It's like
you
magic, isn't
They
it?
tell you how life is, you know, how to run, how they operate, and how you're going to operate. They actually run your story for you, and it's amazing.
I hope before we finish our discussion here, our interview with Tom Barber, that we find out how that works. I find it kind of miraculous. But here's a guy who didn't go to college and take humanities courses and literature courses and communication courses. He went to the School of Hard Knocks. We know what that is.
Good old Kingsville High.
And once he got that pen on paper, things just developed. I think this could turn out to be one of the greatest interviews we've ever done in our little corner, and I think Calvin and I, when we were driving here, tried to figure how many we've done, and we've done pretty close to 350 of these programs.
Amazing.
Since we started in 1997 when I left the radio business. Stay tuned, folks. I think you're going to have a good evening or day or morning, whatever it is, watching our little corner today.
As we start.
You know, before we go too much farther, I want to find out what makes Tom Barber tick. So I want to go right back to your childhood. Talk a little bit about it. Where were you? You were born near here?
I was born actually right at where you made the turn on Grove Street. There's a little house that sits right in that pie-shaped lot.
Right at the intersection with 22.
I was born in that house.
Come on.
Right up here
You
in the
live
corner.
a half a mile from where you
One
were
half
born?
mile from where I was born. And when I was 6 years old, we moved from there. There was a big red barn. It was known as George Signer's then.
Of course. I know.
It is until
George.
today.
Yeah.
Till they finally sold the house. We moved down here, just below here, there's a yellow farmhouse that's left. The barns are on the other side of the road. My dad worked for him for 18 years. So I was actually, my childhood was spent just below me.
You know,
And-
there's a lot to be said for being able to live in the place where you grew up. It gives you a sense of belonging, doesn't it?
Within walking distance.
Oh, I love it.
Within walking distance.
So you grew up here, where'd you start school?
I went to school, at the time I went to school, in 42, 43, they had the French and the Irish convent. They were run by the Catholic sisters. I was born a Catholic, raised a Catholic, Roman Catholic, and I went to the French convent because traditionally we were French. My wife now, for example, went to the Irish convent. And for the first 8 years, we were taught by the nuns. And I think this was the greatest education that anybody could ever have had. Morals, values, everything that you read in this book, if there's any reference to this, is I learned in this school. And then I graduated from the French convent in the 8th grade in 1952 and just stepped up the street about 300 yards to Keysville Central School, where I finished my high school education,
Isn't that amazing?
which is now the Civic Center.
And what year was that when you got out of high school?
1956.
So you and I must be tracking about a year apart. Because I graduated from high school in 1955.
I'm a few months from retirement, Social Security, but I've been on disability for quite some time.
So, after high school, then what?
After high school, back on the farm, I had an older brother that we were out right out in one of these back fields out here behind my house. It was a field of oats. We were running a combine, and it was in late August, early September, very hot day, and he was driving the tractor, and I give him a big wave. He stopped the tractor, and I was tending the oats in the bag of oats, and as they were bagged on the combine, and he come back, he said, "What's the matter?" I said, "I'm sick of this job." And he said, "So am I."
I love it.
So I says to him, I said, "You know what I want to do?" He said, "What, Tom?" I said, "I want to go in the Marine Corps." I said, "I want to become a U.S. Marine."
Semper Fi.
And absolutely. And darn if that didn't, the next morning, I got my father's permission, my mother's permission, because I was only 17 then, and I had to have paperwork signed. And my brother and I headed for Albany. Well, the night before, we kind of partied a little bit.
No.
He did a little more partying
No.
than I did. I went on to Paris Island, South Carolina by train, and he had to come home for a few days. So,
He did.
yeah, and get the party stuff out of him. So, but he did. He finally enlisted, and we were separated. We wanted to be in the same company, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But I went in as a Marine Corps reservist, because I didn't think I wanted to make a full career out of it. And I had a 2-year obligation, and I spent 2 years and 26 days in the Marines. Then I returned home, and I did just about, in the next 20, 25 years, did just about any job a man could do.
Well, you know, I was reading that about you, and I said, this man doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows
I
up.
had no idea what
I have a brother who's 70 years old, and we laugh about it because he keeps saying, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. He's done so many things in his lifetime, and you know, once in a while I go to schools to talk to kids about careers.
Yes.
And they want to know about my radio career. Then they want to know about this television career. They want to know about this writing career. And they want to know about... And when I stop to think about it, I've done many things, and my life could have gone in any one of those directions and stayed there, but it didn't. Just because I stayed on one radio station for 36 years, I've had many other interests, and so have you.
Absolutely.
That's a good thing. Tell us about some of the things you did do, Tom.
Some of the things, oh golly, it's a whirlwind. I worked for the Postal Service. I sold farm equipment to farmers. I worked for Pepsi-Cola Bottling Company. I worked for Sable Chasm as a night custodian, janitor. I worked on the Northway for construction. I started into the construction field. I worked on the Northway operating jackhammers and drills, core drilling, and then I was chainsaws, and then I was elevated to foreman, and then I was running grade, and I did all the grade from North Hudson up to Lincoln Pond for an outfit named Langenfelder.
Oh, yes.
And I worked for them until the job ended, went to Albany, got into the concrete business with my brother. We worked for Lane Construction down there in Albany. I worked for Pratt & Whitney Aircraft in East Hartford, Connecticut.
Kidding.
I spent over 7 years working for my wife's cousin, this gentleman here in this picture, who owns about 3,200 apartments in Northern Virginia area.
Oh, my goodness.
He started out with a 4-apartment building and retired from the Navy and just blew that business into something fantastic. He's still chairman of the board to this day, and he got into trouble, financial trouble, bought some buildings that were close to condemnation, and they were about to evict some of his people, and he knew my reputation being a plumbing, in the plumbing field, the electrical field, carpentering field, concrete field. You'd say I was an unskilled engineer, probably. And he asked that I go down and help him out. And at that time, I was out in Schuyler Falls, fairly close to your place. And off the Turner Road, there's a little drive called Woodland Hills.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see 7 or 8 homes out there. I was head foreman in building those houses. So the diversity of what I've done is just, multiple.
Good life experience. 'Cause you've
I
been
was,
down so
I was,
many roads.
I was never satisfied, but I do appreciate working for myself. I like
different,
I
isn't
like
it?
the job out rather than work for somebody.
Yeah.
I was head electrician for Phase 1 on Plattsburgh Air Force Base. When the job ended down in Virginia, I got him out of difficult times and got him operating again. Got his buildings functioning and full of tenants. He was happy. I was happy to come home. And I was commuting. I'd go down for 21 days and come home for 10. Right back down again. I'd do it for well over 7 years. It was an experience.
You weren't satisfied sitting in your rocking chair.
Never satisfied.
for a
I'm
long
not
time.
satisfied to this day,
Well, this,
except that I can't physically go out and do the things that I want to do.
so some time ago, these physical ailments started to creep in here.
I think the stress that I put on my body. I'm a little guy, but I worked hard, and I gave a man his money's worth.
110%.
And in the process, I ruined some nerves in my hands and legs, and it forced me to become disabled. Doctors forced me into disability. And I wasn't disabled more than 3 months, and I had a silent heart attack.
Oh, boy.
And at that time, I was flying at 11 or 12,000 feet coming into Stapleton Airport in Denver, Colorado. I was out to help my sister-in-law put my oldest brother, lay him to rest. And I felt an obligation to do it. And I felt some of the pain and the trouble walking, but I brushed it off because I blamed it on my nerves, And I got back home, went to my regular doctor for a checkup. A couple of months later, he informed me that I had had a heart attack. This was in June. In September, I was smoking then. I'd smoked for 40 some odd years, and I loved my cigarettes, coffee and cigarettes. And
Sounds familiar, Tom.
to a point where the addiction would get me out of bed in the middle of the night. I'd have to come out and have a cigarette. My wife is asthmatic. She couldn't take the smoking in the house, so I opened the patio door, lit up a cigarette, and don't remember another thing.
Oh, that was it, huh?
And I had the second heart attack. This was the 4th day of September of that year, 1995. And on the way down, evidently, I had slammed the door, broke both bones in the lower part of my leg, the fibula and the tibia, and ended up feeling cold. I was laying out in the concrete. Well, like a fish, I found my way back to the bathroom.
You flopped yourself inside.
I flopped
huh?
myself back
Oh,
somehow.
man.
So the wife said, well, she was calling the ambulance. I tried to get up, and I'd go right over,
Right, yeah.
right back over. And that's all I experienced. That was a terrible, terrible heart attack. I spent the upwards of 12 days in CCU without a prayer. of recovering. But hey,
Must have been a prayer somewhere.
somebody was looking after me.
Must have been those old nuns looking after you.
But,
You think so, from way back when?
That was an experience. That really was. That taught me a lesson right there that I'm not invincible. It's time to slow down. And that's what I had to do.
Then you just changed directions again.
And then I finished up working on my models, and they're still incomplete. There's an awful lot of completion yet to be done on these
Well, I want to
things.
talk about, first of all, the cover for your book is very nice. The book is called A Cabin by the Creek.
Cabin by the creek.
And this is the cabin.
That's the
So
cabin.
this is the first thing you built.
There's the creek.
And there's the creek. Well, so what year did you start this cabin?
This was started, and when I first became disabled, I said, I've got to have some therapy to keep my hands going. I've got a pretty complete shop out there, wood shop. I love red oak. I'm partial to it, and I love hardwoods, and I never thought I had the talent that I could get down and work with a minute things and had the patience to do it. But I developed that patience. Through disability, I developed the patience to do things like this.
I hope this inspires other people who are watching us who think they're washed up and can't accomplish anything. Because look what Tom did. He didn't know if he had 3 days left on this earth or 3 years and I know so many people have done that. Calvin and I went to the Adirondack Museum, Blue Mountain Lake, and I went there one day with my wife, and there was a little old lady there, and I walked up to a display of little tiny items like like your wheelbarrow and chairs and tables and things, hundreds of them, and I started to comment to my wife how beautiful they were, and I looked, and there was a little old lady next to me crying. And I asked her why she was crying. She said, we just put this display here. My husband had a massive heart attack and thought he was going to live just a few weeks or a few months. So we got a couple of jackknives and sat at the kitchen table, and for the next, 6 or 10 years, waiting to die, he made the most beautiful things, and they donated it to the museum, put it on display so other people could enjoy it. So we don't know, do we, Tom?
No, we don't.
We don't know.
We don't.
So
no.
you started this, and how long did you spend on it? You said you're still working on it.
It's I don't think it'll ever be completed. I've got farm animals that I just cut out recently with my equipment out there. I'm not a carver, and I'm going to try to learn.
I love it.
Everything here I tried to do, and it's got to satisfy me. I'm very particular.
You've got to show me more details of this.
I'll be taking this thing all apart for
Oh,
you.
my.
If you're ready, I can really,
I'm ready. We got
really show you.
We got a
something.
wood pile. We got a privy, a back house. Look at this tiny little
There's the
wheelbarrow.
and
That's the
they,
way wheelbarrows used to look.
they haul the wood in. Yeah, that's one model.
Did you look at a picture to make that, or
No.
did you just?
No, it's from recollection of the wheelbarrows that we had on the
Those
farm.
old wheelbarrows were around when you were a kid.
And of course
Even smaller.
this one here had the sideboards on it for the manure.
There was always manure.
We went out, up a plank, dumped the thing on the manure pile.
Been there, done that.
I hope it's okay to say manure.
Yeah. No, yeah. We can say manure.
It's not a four-letter word.
That's right. No, that's more than 4 letters. Yeah, we've all handled a lot of that, and we've walked through it.
A lot of my items are glued down because I transport, but some of the things that aren't
Look
are,
at this little rocking
This
chair.
is a rocking chair.
Isn't that
That's
beautiful?
design,
All glued together.
all glued together.
Now, did you draw that before you start cutting it out?
No, sir.
Just did it.
No, I just built it. Just decided this was the way it was going to be. And that's the way it was.
I love it. Look at this. We got a blunderbuss here. An old Betsy.
That I call a musket
A
rifle.
musket. Isn't that beautiful? I could see
It
that.
was probably, now this story, actually, begins somewhere around 1873 to 75, and the novel ends around 1935.
Oh, does it?
So you can think, yes, it does. So you can say that probably this cabin came to life early 1900, give or take 10 years.
Wouldn't you freak out, Mr. Tom Barber, if you were driving down some back road somewhere in Kentucky or Altona or somewhere, and you drove up
Right
to this
by a
cabin
model
by
of
the
it.
creek?
I'd buy it in a minute.
I hope it never happens because you'd have another heart attack.
Oh, I would.
But
I
you know
would.
what? There were probably lots of cabins that looked a little bit like this. This doesn't look unlike the one on Bonanza. Remember the porch on Bonanza? Remember Hop Sing standing on the porch and hollering?
Probably.
Oh, but it's so beautiful. And did you cut out every shingle?
Every shingle is manufactured. They're made out of red oak, and they're stained different colors because of back again. I don't want to give my story away in my book, but it took quite a while for him to manufacture these shingles, and it took quite a while for the master character to save enough money to be able to build this cabin.
Look at the
And,
wood pile. Look at the wood pile.
Now this is a rank of wood
Yeah.
that you would typically see drying, in fact several ranks, because there are dual fireplaces in this cabin. And
It's so beautiful. He got chunks. He's got.
it's scrap wood, anything that's
Isn't that amazing?
uh,
And a rack and all glued together, so
There-
it won't fall apart on you in the car.
there's a sawmill close by where this guy bought some property, and I'm giving the story away
Just
again.
a little bit. We're going
But
to tantalize
anyway,
people. They'll
yeah,
have
but
to
I'm
buy
not
the
going to
book.
tell you. I'm just going to reserve my thought.
Yeah. That's-
But the fireplace, I want to mention that I was smoking at the time. There's a flue that goes right down through to the fire pit itself, and I could take a cigarette and open the door to my studio shop where I did most of the work on this thing. And then when at winter time, I'd go up in one of the back bedrooms upstairs till my wife threw me out of the house. And I'd go back to the shop, but I could hold the cigarette down where the burn pot was, and the smoke would come out the chimney.
Who else would make it so real that the flue went all the way up through?
It was amazing, and
Yeah, our good friend Ron Venn, he would do that too, because he would find out.
I've seen Ron on your program.
He's such
quite
a nice
bit.
guy, and he would do that. He would want to make sure that when he went to sleep, the little people came to live in his cabin, that they could have a fire. I think I know what this is, even though you don't have a half moon carved in the door.
Well, this was too early for the half moon.
I
The
want
half moon actually is Scottish.
see. He knows this stuff. You're amazing.
The half moon is a Scottish design, and the reason why they put the half moon in the door, I think, is because there weren't enough cracks in the boards, or they used too wide a board with giving them too few cracks to have any daylight inside the outhouse with the door closed.
I love it.
So when you got through your duty and it come time to clean up, either that door had to swing open to see what you were doing, or you were going to get messed up.
How did you make the hinges?
I manufactured them
Little
all by
tiny,
myself.
tiny pieces.
All by myself.
Open it up. It's a two-holer.
Yeah.
I wanted to know if you had a
Well,
Sears
this-
catalog in there, and your wife said it was not the.
No, it's
You used little pieces of paper, didn't you?
yeah,
Pictures
and they're
of-
glossy paper, you know. and
Isn't? Oh, yeah,
some
it
of
was.
this stuff doesn't clean very
Kind
well.
of tough, yeah. Better than corn cobs, as they said. Look at this. It's a
Now,
two-holer.
this, usually the adult went in. Giving my story away again.
No, but
The characters had 4 children. They raised 4 children, a good family. And each one of them they would bring in, and that was the training hole. And they would train
Isn't
them while
that
they went to the
amazing?
bathroom.
Who would ever think of putting that in a book?
Well, that's what it
So
is.
you
That's
got-
why you see one hole is
Yeah.
larger than the other.
And kids would ask you that, I bet you, in a school. How
Yes.
come one's bigger than the other?
Yes, and they'd be petrified if they had to sit on the big hole.
Oh, yeah. Of course they would. Be
Because, you
afraid
know,
of going out of sight. I love it.
But
So
now,
you got your mark there, so you know exactly where
another
to...
thing about this is it had a window in it that could be removed in the summertime for ventilation.
Oh,
It
sure.
would
Yeah.
help the air conditioning and
Yeah, you needed it,
keep
too.
the odor problems down.
I love it.
flies.
I love it. So you got a little
So
template there. You drew a little mark so you know exactly where it
Well,
goes.
usually when I did book signings, I took this with me, and it was easy to
Yeah.
set up. Now, actually, that comes right out of there.
Look at this.
But this is my invention of the clothesline. And you will notice that there's no grass beneath it, because clothes tend to fall off the line, wet clothes, fall into that green grass and stain themselves, and had to be rewashed. It was one of the pet peeves of the older folks. So he designed the clothespin.
Look at the size of this clothespin, and you can't even buy clothespins like that anymore.
Oh no!
You can't even buy them. I
No,
tried to
no.
buy
These
some
aren't
last
the
summer.
spring type.
No.
These are the push down.
We
type.
got a few around our house, but you can't even buy them. That's beautiful.
So like I say, there's a whole chapter on it, and there's little pegs
You gotta be
that
kidding.
you use in the hole, and you draw the lines up. When your clothes get heavy, if you got
Draw
a
the
lot
line
of
up and
clothes,
push the...
you draw the line up to keep the clothes up higher.
That's amazing.
Push the peg.
This man was thinking every minute.
So everything has a purpose.
I want to
Everything
walk
has a
around.
purpose.
Calvin's going to follow us, so we're going to
Let's-
walk around.
When I get to this side here, now, in 1900, he came from Poland. He was born in Poland. His missus was Irish. She was abandoned in Poland. They actually met there. That's all I'm going to tell you about.
Okay.
All right? But this is Polish indoor plumbing.
Look at this, with a little tiny pipe
Now, what it is
and a pitch on the trough
is a bucket.
and a bucket.
In the trough,
Comes apart. Come on.
everything functions.
Isn't
Everything
that
has to function.
Isn't
Now you're
that-
going to ask me what this is. This is so you can fill the cistern box
from outside?
from outside.
He's got it's painted so it looks like it's
In the
tin.
wintertime, you don't have to open the door. Now the door
Oh, it's got the
It's-
old, look at this.
is the old,
You gotta be kidding
the
me,
old
Thomas.
slide bolt door that opens.
Oh, my.
Now you wouldn't want to open that door in the wintertime. You would want to fill that thing from the creek, haul water from the creek, fill the cistern box.
Every one of these things is an education for kids in school and for seniors too, because some of these things they've seen in their own lives, you know. I love it.
I think the last thing I'll show you before I tear the roof off is the well. Now this is called the Dark Horse Well, and I won't go no any further. There's a whole chapter on that.
Is there?
And the well was dug in the ground, and in order to keep it from contamination,
Look at
he
this.
built the well house,
And it works.
and it works.
A little well house, and you crank it down and maybe get a frog once in a while.
Oh
when you
yes,
get the water up.
well, that was the reason for
Yeah.
enclosing it, to keep the animals out. But it sat about 50 feet away from the house, and you'll read about that in the book too.
Oh,
Now what I've got here is, these are, back in those days they call them hurricane pegs. The outside rafter of any structure they pound a hole through it into the structure itself and drive in a plug,
Hardwood plug.
a hardwood plug. It's called a hurricane spike. And the hurricane spike kept the roof on in case they got strong wind, because they couldn't use that many nails. And the wooden pegs would break, but this would keep the roof from falling off. So that's what holds this thing down.
Okay.
Now, if I can just slide in
Well,
front of you and take
your
this out.
time. Take your time.
Everything has to function.
I know, you keep telling me that.
Everything has to function.
Oh, come on. Look at this. Look at this. Let me go in front of you. I love it. Boy, you're bringing out the kid in me, Thomas. You're bringing out the
Well,
kid.
you're gonna want to live in this thing.
I
when
want.
get
Oh, I already do. Mom, I shrunk the kids. You dear. Oh no, what was that? Dear, I shrunk the
You're gonna
kids.
live in this thing
I,
when I
Huh?
get through.
Honey, I shrunk the kid.
oh, honey, I shrunk the kids.
Honey,
I want to know if your wife made the blankets.
No.
You don't tell me you knit those
My
blankets.
youngest daughter did, but I did the pillows and the
Look at
mattress.
Look,
But my youngest daughter did the crocheting.
the mattresses could have been
I don't-
wood shavings
I don't
or
know.
corn husks. They made them out of a lot of
Chances are it was corn husks.
corn husks
Yeah. And straw.
and straw too. Straw mattresses. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Would this be called a
Now-
loft?
This was the bedroom. I just call it the bedroom upstairs. You're going to see spices, condiments, and everything else
Salt.
upstairs.
Coffee, gunpowder.
The house did have a root cellar, but the first winter they were there, evidently they had some surface water, and the mildew and the moisture from not heating the crawl space, or the root cellar they used to call it, kind of raised Cain with their storage. So back in town, he was a mercantile man. He operated a mercantile store, and of course he wouldn't do it at his own place of business. All his stuff was kept dry and warm. So he said, the only place we can keep this thing is in the attic. So these are attic bedrooms. So that's why everything is all stored in the attic. And as you know, everything used to come in sacks. You had a sack of salt, sack of flour, or in this case, a barrel of flour.
Oh, and even when
And
I
that-
was a kid, there was barrels of lots of things
That's
in the
buck-
store. There'd be a
buckwheat.
pickle barrel. And,
Yeah, and these are pickle barrels here. And you had barrels of lard. There's your pickle barrel.
Oh my goodness.
There's
Salt pork.
Salt pork.
There were lots of- Our ancestors had amazing ways of preserving things,
Absolutely,
didn't they? Huh?
absolutely.
They knew that the salt would preserve it, and they knew exactly how to do it. And look at these beds.
But these are nothing but slat
They had slats. Sometimes they had ropes,
and
rope
a
beds.
yeah,
Everything comes apart.
and a tick mattress.
Uh-huh. Yeah, sometimes they had feather ticks.
Yeah.
I love it. Right down to the last. The kids must go nuts when you take these things apart in a
They
school.
wanna take them
Do
with
they
them.
ask you to come down
They
to the
wanna-
schools once in a
They
while?
no, I haven't.
Well, it's about
I-
time. If they see this,
I
I'll
re-
bet you your phone's going to ring the first time this program is
I
aired.
really don't dare to. I would rather show
Oh.
them the video,
Oh, I see.
a video like what you're making today,
Isn't this amazing?
and let them see this, live and look at and imagine that way, than to let them get their hands in this, because they will break something.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Now, of course, this is
Oh,
the
you got a
stairs.
ladder that comes out of there?
There's the stairs to the second floor.
Oh,
back in
my
those days.
Goodness. Wait a minute. Comes apart. Oh my goodness. Look at this.
Oh, we haven't
Oh, my
seen
goodness.
anything yet.
Oh my gosh.
We haven't seen anything yet.
Oh dear gosh.
We're just beginning to fight.
Right down to the smallest details.
Oh,
This is almost magical. Almost magical. Be careful. Don't want to spill the salt and the gunpowder. Oh my gosh. Come on.
okay.
All right, talk a little bit about the interior here.
First thing I'd like to bring your attention to is this is either German or Polish or
Pegs.
Poland, but the peg rail.
Peg rails.
And peg rail is just something that he had to have. What few petition walls he had, they had a peg rail on them to hang their hats, clothes, brooms, and whatever. Now I just transportation here.
A little pot.
This is a parlor with its own fireplace,
Got a mantle.
and it's got a let me put this back in here. I just broke it.
Take your time.
I didn't break it. I just pulled it out of its thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Take your time. Look at this. All the details. Windows that actually slide up and down.
Everything has to function.
I saw you look
Everything
at this.
does function.
Oh my.
They're single pane. Or
Look at that. Little cradle.
now across here, I haven't installed it yet, would be a rope, and they'd divide the bedroom from the parlor.
By hanging
So the
something from the
gentleman by
rope.
hanging a blanket or something, and she'd retire early because she was up getting breakfast for him when he got up in the morning, and he'd spend his time in the parlor entertaining and so on, and that hasn't been installed yet. On this fireplace, which is about the same setup, you'd heat the hot water,
And you'd swing it out. And
And
they
you
really
swing
had
it
those.
and this here is a baking oven.
Oh,
Now,
sure.
this is German in design, and in there you'll see.
Oh, come on. Little loaves of bread in there.
Couple of loaves of
Yeah.
bread.
You don't have to pull it all out.
Well,
It's pretty hard to get
see
in
if I
there.
can get one out. My hands just don't function that well.
Yeah, they function better than mine would in there. I'd get my finger in there and we'd have to call an ambulance to get me out. Look at this. Look at this loaf of bread.
That's just one.
Oh
Now
my.
the other one is is here on the table.
I see it all sliced
It's-
up. And you look at the tiny
It's
slices.
sliced and ready to serve.
Oh my.
That table's
my.
ready to
You
serve.
gotta. All kinds of stuff. We're going to pause for a minute, put a new battery in, and continue this exciting interview with Tom Barber in Keysville. When Tom said, now we got a new battery, when Tom says he paid attention to the smallest detail, he wasn't kidding. Get out that little drawer. I want to take a look at that again.
Oh, you mean
The man-
the cutlery drawer?
The cutlery drawer. Look
cutlery
at this.
drawer is what we need
Wow.
to look at.
They're so tiny. What in the world possessed you to carve out these tiny little knives and spoons and forks? You don't have to take them all out. My
I just
gosh.
want to take one.
A
or
stiff
two.
wind would blow them away. You better not sneeze when you're showing me this stuff. And you had to carve every one separately.
Everyone had to be made, you know.
Oh my goodness.
And they're made out of wood. Of course, they didn't have the steel then, but
Look at this. Look at this with the knives. And you painted every one separately. Talk about a labor of love.
that's the cutlery now.
I can understand why you're saying things have to continue.
That went under the sideboard sink, and of course the dishes and the bowls and everything. were
On the
all
sideboard sink is a pump, a hand pump,
a pitcher pump.
and the pitcher pump took water out of the cistern. Remember how he said they filled the cistern
You see in
from
it?
outside? Oh my goodness, he's got the handle that really works. Isn't that absolutely
The
amazing?
cistern box is this box right under here. You fill that box with water, and then you prime the pump, of course.
Of course.
Pump your water
Pour
into
some
the
water
cistern.
in the top. Normally they had leather. And the pump had leather, right?
Had
Leather
Leather gaskets.
gaskets inside.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Now the door to the root cellar was back in here.
I see it.
I think
You're going to get caught in there, and then we're going to have to. Oh, look at this. The door
that's
works
how
to the
they
root
went.
cellar.
Oh well, everything has to
Everything's got to work.
work. Everything has to work.
You don't have any idea how many hours you spent on this building
I got
alone.
288 hours
He knows. I should have known. You and Ron Venn.
of installation of the application of putting it together. I have no idea how much time that I would make and remake this timber.
This looks like
It's
Lincoln Logs to me. Remember the Lincoln Logs we had when we were kids?
It probably
everything
is.
fit
It
together?
probably is close.
Isn't that amazing?
Probably is close.
And you didn't draw a design for before you started
Not a
on this
bit,
either?
Not a bit.
Just began.
Just went at it.
And how many different kinds of wood in here?
This is primarily, this is all red oak. The floor downstairs is red oak. The floor upstairs is yellow birch.
Ooh.
Because you only had 2 small windows in the attic bedroom. And the more light that you could get in there, the better. Now, I haven't yet whitewashed this petition, but it's made out of yellow birch, or out of white birch. So I wanted to have as much cheery daylight as you
So
could
you're going to
get.
whitewash it?
And like they did in the barns, they whitewashed their walls.
See, people who've never been on a farm have no idea what we're talking about, but Calvin and I are nodding our heads. It's a wonder the camera didn't go up and down. I've been through that whitewashing process any number of times where everything in the place got whitewashed. I mean, you pick up a hay fork and it got whitewashed if you didn't have it out of there. Those guys came through. Oh, this building alone is absolutely
Well,
fantastic.
that's the makings of the cabin.
When you got started on this,
Got a washboard too.
got a washboard?
Butter churn.
Oh my goodness, see, I couldn't see that. Wait a minute, let me get over here. I gotta take a look at this. Go ahead.
There's
Look
the,
at the
there's
washboard.
the washboard. This is fastened down, so
Yep.
but it is a wash tub and a stand and the scrub board.
Oh my.
So that's the washing machine. What you sees is what you get, I guess.
I love it with those tiny utensils, just to give an idea that once you got started,
Well, there was, creativity is
yeah.
only part of it. There's a lot more I'd like to be able to put in here,
And you will.
and I probably will someday. But
You're good for 40 more years or so, I figure.
Oh
I
goodness.
heard on the news this morning the oldest man in Vermont just died and he made it to 109, so you know what you got to look forward to. That's beautiful. So when you were building this, Tom, did you say to yourself, this is going to be it? Or could you, when you finished, when you got the roof on, then you said, okay, I got to do something else now?
I built the cabin, and between the heart attacks, I had it close to complete between January and September. And I said, well, this looks so nice. Why don't I just build a little barn? And
A little barn.
and we'll have a structure to go with it. Now, that barn actually is supposed to be the same size, designed to be the same size as a cabin. But these people were farmers. They wanted a variety of animals. You can't put a variety of animals in the square footage that you could put 6 people in a cabin. You got to have the space. So we had to build a little larger barn.
I love it.
Now, after the main portion of the barn was constructed, which you'll read in the book, there was dissatisfaction with the size. This addition was added on to it. It was added on to by 50%. So it became quite a good-sized barn. But you'll see when we get into the barn why it's the size that it is.
I'm looking at the doors alone. Just take a look at what it took to make one of those doors with the sliding latches.
This is actually a lock that they used in the early 1900s on the static door. They call it the static door because it wasn't one that operated. This was the operating door that you got into the building. But when this was closed and locked, that's stationary. And then this door swung onto it. Yeah. And it locked.
I love it. Just take a look
Now-
at all the things it required on the outside.
While we're looking at it, of course we needed ventilation and all the windows open.
Don't break it. Oh, look at that.
Now this happens to be the chicken pen. And of course,
Yep, there you go.
there's how you let the chickens out.
Never mind who let the dogs out. Huh? There's the chickens.
You gotta let the. I'll open that up, and then you'll probably always see that thing propped up there, and the chickens have to find their way out. But anyway, also the barn in this era, it was not yet ready for the hay fork.
No.
You mailed the hay
Oh, you
off
had-
the wagon to the second floor, and it all went to the. Oh goodness, I'm in trouble. I'll have to push that from the other side,
It's all right.
but I can't pin.
Push through, yeah.
Moisture raises cane with me,
Yeah.
and then I bring it in, and it gets dry. Before we tear that apart, the final stages of this operation was the guy was in the freight business. And most of the time he parked the freight wagon at home and drove the thing into town, or he drove a buggy, which is actually out there under construction.
Okay. I believe you.
Has yet to be built. They did build the hay wagon,
I love the hay wagon
you
with the
saw.
whipple trees and everything.
Whipple
You got
tree.
them all on there.
and here the freight wagon, which is similar, quite similar. Built very, very sturdy.
I love it. He's got an extra E in the word trading. Did you notice
That's
that?
the English,
Isn't that
the
amazing?
English pronunciation for
The
trading.
spelling, yeah.
He caught an awful lot of cane over it.
I should have
From
known.
the English teacher that was hired in town to teach the students when they first set up a school down there. You know,
That's beautiful.
and of course,
Oh, sure, it comes apart. Of course, it has to slide right out.
that's got to come out to unload your freight.
Yeah.
Nail kegs and
Oh my.
barrels
goodness.
of whatever. And
It's got a tight fit in there. Just be careful
it
you
is
don't
kinda
break it.
tight. It is kind of tight for some reason.
I love it. I once wrote a newspaper column a couple of years ago about stone walls. I don't know about you, but Calvin and I have talked about this. I love stone walls. Many of them were created simply because people had to get the stone out of their fields.
They had to come
So
out.
they used a horse and a stone boat. And any little kid who grew up on a farm, the worst thing he liked to do was pick stones, right?
That's right.
And we have stone walls here in this North Country, actually probably miles and miles. If you were to go back in the woods where houses and farms used to exist, you'll find stone walls up through Chazy and Beekmantown and all over the place. What possessed you to make a whole stone wall about this?
Well, it gives the character to the landscape, and the fact that he was one of the first designers. Most of your stone walls, they put a wooden stick in them, the center of the wall. Excuse me.
I had forgotten that.
And put barbed wire. Now you'll notice that
I noticed
wire.
your barbed
that
wire. Did you
is-
make that barbed
Yeah,
wire?
I made that
Oh
barbed
my
wire.
goodness.
And where else do you see a stone wall? That you
Wait a
can-
minute, it moves?
You can pick up and transport wherever you want.
Oh my goodness.
You know.
That had to take you a few hours just all by itself. Are they all glued together or what?
They're all cemented.
Cemented?
I used the rubber cement
Did you?
and applied the stone to make the wall. And
It's beautiful. I don't believe I've ever seen anything quite like that. Yep. With the barbed wire
with the barbed wire
and the wooden posts.
and the wooden poles.
That's great. And now you got a
Now this building is called a carriage shed. Of course, every old farm had a carriage shed
Sure.
wherever there was a wagon or even the early automobiles are kept in a carriage shed. And the only thing is, they used to haul the milk up to the cabin, and it's quite a distance up there. So he decided that one time, while he was building the carriage shed, that he would add on a little addition, half of it being a tack room, and the other for the equipment for his horses and mule.
for people who don't know what tack is, it's the harnesses and all the things you
Harnesses
need
and
for
everything.
harnessing. Sure.
And the other portion of it was the milk house. And I can show you that portion of it.
Oh my goodness, this one comes apart too.
Just this room.
Unbelievable. Everything fits so beautifully and tight. Can Kelvin get a look in there? Let me get over here. I gotta take a look myself inside this thing. I cannot believe what you've done.
Let me open the door.
Okay,
And the milk house is on this side.
look at
And
this.
you'll see milk bottles and cream cans over there.
I got it. And then they're gonna have all the tack in there after a while.
And there's a lot of work to be done yet on this. It's a work in progress.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I mean, people can imagine walking into this. If they were little people, you could walk right in and use this stuff. That's just fantastic. Was this the last thing or the second thing?
This was the last.
That was the last.
This was the third. You can see by the aging of the shingles on the roof. The old
Oh.
shingles, and then you'll see slightly aging. Use red oak, split shingles, and that's it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, now we got
we'll
the
get
barn.
back to the barn. Now the barn had the same thing, the hurricane fence, pegs. Now this guy had 5 head of cattle, milking cows.
Yeah, that was enough to support the family.
That was a large
Yep. A lot of people had one cow,
business.
2 cows, but he had
Yeah.
5.
He had 5 because he sold his products at his mercantile store in town. So he actually run the farm to supply the people in town, and he made money doing it, and I guess he really enjoyed it.
Apparently we haven't made a mistake yet. Wanda didn't say a word from out in the kitchen, you know. Apparently
She'll
my wife would be saying, "No, Gordy, it wasn't 95, it was 94." I love it.
oh, I gotta take this one,
That one comes off first.
and then this one.
It's amazing how you have it so it'll come apart. Oh, look at this. Just take a look at every single one that slides open. Oh my,
Now these holes you see in the floor are hay holes.
yeah.
They're designed to go over the area where you want the feeding product to drop down to your cattle below. So it saves a lot of hauling from here to there and everywhere. Down here, these 3 hay holes, actually the hay went down in front of the cattle that were stanching in stanchions there. These 2 were dropped down to the horses and the mule and their pen. There's also one back there that dropped down to the bullpen, which you'll see.
That's where the relief pitchers are.
Yeah, that's where relief pitchers are always in the bullpen, yeah.
Well,
I love it. All these sections of floor. You're gonna have to bring in an engineer to figure out how it all goes back together again. You think you can do it?
I think
You've
I
had
can
it
do
apart before, huh?
I think I can do it. It's just installing them so that they can come out.
Look at the
That was
details.
the chore.
Look at the detail. Look at the stanchions. This is truly amazing. So that one comes out too?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Everything's functioning.
But the tolerances are so perfect that if the
Everything
wood
functions.
swells a little bit, you'd have a little trouble moving
There's
it.
where you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Down here is the stanchions.
Come on, you put together every stanchion
Yeah.
separately, working
These
stanchions.
are the stanchion blocks. You used to take that out. They'd hang on a string. This would open up. The cow would back out of it.
You know, that's a real study to see how stanchions have changed through the years, huh?
Yeah.
The
Well,
whole
this-
process is completely different today.
This was a stanchion block type of setup with wooden bowls.
Isn't that
You know,
amazing?
they had their bucket of water in front of them, and now he had a pair of draft horses. They were Belgian draft horses, and he had a mule. And I don't want to get into the book.
Oh, yes, you do.
we'll let
You
that
want to
go.
tell the whole story, but you don't
Now,
dare.
at night, when he got ready to feed the horses for the night, he dropped his this gate. The gate would drop down, he'd fill it up with hay, and the horses would have enough to last all night, all evening.
My goodness. Just absolutely beautiful.
He liked all, saved himself an awful lot of work. Kept his animals happy. Now back here, you'll see the gate for the pig pen, a hog pen,
Oh, yes, with a trough inside.
and the hogs went outdoors through their own little,
Own little door
their own
outside.
little door
I see it.
outside. This is the sheep and the goat pen in this area. This is the bull pen. This is where the old bulls stayed, and we'll see that when we tear off the roof for that. And this is the hen house, or the chicken coop.
That's the thing that I hated worst when I worked on the farm, is cleaning out the chicken coop.
Well, yeah. it got a
We
little
talked about
messy.
manure before, but that's in a class by itself.
Could get fairly strong. at
Oh,
times.
yes, in the hot summertime. So we got another roof that comes off.
We got another roof that comes up.
This is spectacular.
Detail.
Just absolutely beautiful.
Detail.
This would be hard enough if you did it from plans, but when you do it from the top of your head,
This one's a little dicey.
boy, that's close, isn't it?
A little dicey.
Oh, sure. Look how it has to fit in. Look at the screening in between.
Oh,
Come on.
Of course. Of course. course, back then they used copper screening and it was imported.
Really?
Yes.
You had to do a little research.
Oh, I never researched. That's why I wrote fiction.
Oh, okay.
I don't have to do research.
Look at this.
Now, of course, the pig pen was quite simple. All I had was a trough.
Yep.
And the sheep and the bull pen, you drop the hay down into there on one side. The bull pen dropped the hay down on the other side. The chicken coop, you'll probably, Calvin will
I
probably
see the
want
chicken
to see
coop. I see the roost.
see the nest.
See the nest where they roosted?
And the roost is on this side.
Oh, my goodness. Isn't that's absolutely amazing and wonderful and fascinating. People are going to be calling you on the phone and say, Tom, you got to bring that stuff over here. We got to show this to the Historical Society, or we got to show this to the high school kids, and we got to. You may have to take this show on the road there, my friend.
It's just the amount of destruction that you can cause by undressing these models like this.
Just to, you'd have to keep it away from the people and let them walk around but not touch.
A good video would have the same effect.
Yeah, I know.
As far as the younger group, but it's not
For the older people,
It's not the
for the
excitement.
older people like me,
Like
I
us.
like to look in here.
Yeah.
I like to see how big those big beams were to hold that barn up. A barn had to be pretty strong because, you're putting lots and lots of hay up there, even by hand back in those days.
Well, you can see how it was constructed.
The posts and beams and pins and...
And the ladder to get down here, in fact, I'll push that pin back where it belongs now and open that door. But the ladder to
Oh,
get
there's the ladder.
to get up here was put up there. The guy would get up, and otherwise he'd have to come up through the hay hole,
Yeah.
which normally he would. But,
How would he get to the ladder if the ladder was up there?
well, he'd come through the hay hole, get to the ladder, drop the ladder down, and anybody
He's got to
else.
figure it out. You're not going to trap him.
If Mother he wanted to get Mother up there to help him with the hay. She certainly wouldn't come up through the hay hole, would she? He'd have to set the ladder down to it.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
then pull the ladder back up and wherever it goes.
So we have no idea how many hundreds of hours of construction time you got.
There's 126 hours of this, of actual putting together. But I kind of lost count because some of the material I had used there, I had already in stock for, starting to build this. So it didn't amount to a whole big change. And the carriage shed was actually made from almost the scraps of the other two buildings. So
It's beautiful. Is this farm going to grow, or is this going to be the end
no,
of it?
this is the end of it. At 1935, you really got serious in farming then. Either you started milking, Calvin will probably tell you his family, he comes from a family of good dairy farmers. You either had to build that dairy up and start producing some milk, or you had to get out of the business.
Well, think about it now, where they have to have 900 cows, 500 cows.
We got one right over here in the Brown
Oh,
Road
yes.
that's milking 1900
Think about
head
it.
of cattle.
And when I worked on the farm, we had, I would have to guess, at any given time, 35 Holstein milkers. And that
Right.
was about what we had in the 50s.
This farm down here, we milked 40 head, and he could just barely just barely keep his head above water.
Yeah.
And when my dad finally got crippled up with arthritis, went to the school system as a janitor, he had arthritis in his knees so bad from the milking parlor down here, which they installed for efficiency. He was up to 70 head.
See that?
And
That was big time.
this gentleman's farm was no more. It was out of existence, I would say, from 1945 on.
Yep, and then when electricity came through and Roosevelt's plan to electrify the United States, still a lot of the farms that I worked on had no electricity and no indoor plumbing and all of that. But when electricity came through, that revolutionized the farming business when
did.
electric milkers or pneumatic milkers were finally developed. This is absolutely beautiful.
The story,
Absolutely beautiful.
the gutter. There's quite a lot of activity in the book
Of course.
that pertains to the gutter and the cattle and milking. And I think if you read it, you're going to find it enjoyable. It's there. I mean, you can see it there, but it does have a reason for being there.
But you built a cabin before you wrote the book.
I built the cabin and started this,
Before you
Got
actually
into
got the
this.
book.
and then thought that I might do the barn and the cabin and then start showing it. But I got antsy about this because I had intentions of building a freight wagon and a wagon and some of these little things that go with the farm, and they had to have a home too. So that's
Everybody's got to have a
that's
home.
where the carriage shed, but not the addition. The addition didn't come in until I had written the story. And after I had gotten into the novel, I said, we're building the carriage shed, we got to have the tack room and the milk house for convenience.
You know, that's
Convenient.
we got to talk a whole lot more about the genesis, how this book was born. Because I'm sure when you started to write, how many pages is that book?
The original book was 728 pages. After it was edited, and that was a business all by itself,
It always is.
I had two people do my editing for me that were very, very nice. They live in Peru, and Art and Sarah Graves, and they did a wonderful job. But it was a continuous fight. Every night she would do a piece of my work and correct it and rewrite it, and I would get it the next day and be so furious about it because
It's like losing a kid, right?
she wanted to remove my
Oh, I know the
slang.
feeling.
She wanted to change the tense from the. I wrote the book in the present tense.
Sure.
You don't write a book in the present tense. It has to be written in the past tense.
Well, that's not.
I didn't know that. Of
That's
course,
not.
I'm not a
That's
writer.
not written in stone either.
Well, this novel had to be.
Yeah.
So,
So anyway, you had a lot. You had help in the
as it
editing.
ended up, they were my biggest nemesis. But we got over that, and they turned in to be my best friend, and I believe I lost my train.
Well,
of
with
thought.
700 and some pages when you started, they
It was-
edited it down to what is
They
it now?
edited it down to 678, which it isn't currently, and
That is amazing.
took a lot of the ramble and the roaring out of it, and we satisfied.
I hope they didn't take too much of the roaring out of it.
No, because I wouldn't do it.
Roaring is good, you know.
And I self-published it, and probably was a big mistake.
You know, we
because-
talked about that a lot, and I don't want to monopolize this interview, but I do a lot of writing, and I've yet to publish very much except a column in the Press Republican.
Right.
And you wrestle with that because you can publish books online on the internet.
Yeah.
You can publish books through small publishing companies.
Yeah.
If you're fortunate, you can get a literary agent, get them to peddle your book with big companies. And fortunate, and once in a while, a big company will say, "I like that. We'll give you a nice advance of $2.5 million, Tom,
Yes,
if you'll let
yes,
us
sir.
publish your book, Tom." But you decide to go by another route. So you self-published. In other words, you made a deal with a small publishing company
With a
in
publisher.
Vermont.
In Vermont, right?
They ended up with a slick job. I have to tell you, you know what my wife said when that book came in the mail? If I That's a
Looks
nice
professional.
looking book.
It's professional.
She said, and we're both readers.
Yeah.
She said, if I were to go to a bookstore and see that book sitting on a shelf, I'd be drawn to it. First of all, by the title,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then by the cover. And I'd look through it and I'd say, this is a good looking book. And you know what they used to say, you can't tell a book by the cover? Well, this one you can.
You can.
Because
and,
what's outside is what's inside.
and what's inside is good, solid, legible print, because I want the older people, and 99% of us wear some type of eye
Oh, yeah.
glass of some kind. And our vision is not like what it is
Yeah.
if we were 40. And the paper is white. It's not rag
Yeah.
second grade paper. It's a quality book, and it reflects it.
You got the whole package. Now, let's walk over here with me and explain. When I opened the package and I saw calendars and I saw, pictures and bookmarks and
At
cards.
this time, if I can present Calvin with his copy.
Oh boy, here we go, Calvin. You're going to get your own copy too. Oh, that's beautiful.
I would like to tell you show you what I usually give in complimentary copies. Of course, a copy of the bill that's paid.
That's always nice to know,
I designed the bookmarker.
I like that.
You will get your own bookmarker, and on the back are the two scenes, the summer and the winter scene. It's laminated.
Now, did you paint this or what did you do?
No. I have a full setup computer system.
Oh, I see.
I did it on my printers.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my
great.
own designing.
I thought it might be.
And these are kind of a little illustration of what my cabins look like.
I saw this. I have to confess.
Before I made the book.
I have to confess that I had no idea how big these were based on these photographs. And you blew me away. When I walked in the door and saw this table, I guess you have to know that you have really made a huge impression on me just by showing me this stuff, because we're all kids at heart.
Yes, we are.
We're all kids, and Calvin and I both love history. We have some good friends who've decided to build a modern farm as though it were done with horses, and they have
Right.
horses out in the country on the Pellerin Road.
Right.
We went back there and interviewed them, and then they've been talked about in local newspapers, and we love that kind of stuff. And we both had a history of farming in our families.
But
And look at that.
And a few business cards.
Of course, you got to have a few business
My
cards.
latest card includes my website on it. The other one I had to put them on.
Yeah, there is a website, so people can
And,
discover a cabin by the creek.
If
On their
anybody
computers.
wants to access any information at all that's in the prefix of this book, or any information on the biography that I've written on myself, access my website at www.thecabinbythecreek.com, and they can get this. And I would like to present this to Calvin and thank him very much for his contact with me, and
That's nice. You got it, boy.
wish him-
There's a
wish
picture of
him
it, handing him over.
pleasant reading.
That's really neat.
Sit down.
It's the old saying is it's hard to get there from here. But I bet you when you started this whole thing, you had no idea you were going to end up here.
Didn't have a clue.
But that's the beauty of it.
Never
when you
kn- never
just walk
know.
down a road and wonder what's around that next corner, huh?
Never knew I could write a novel, but it was a challenge. That was interesting.
And who knows what's going to happen from this day forward.
Well,
As I said earlier in our interview, we're recording this on a snowy day in February 2004. This book actually was finished in 2000.
it was published the 20th of January 2000.
So we're talking 4 years ago.
4 years.
And who knows where it's going to go next. Now, you mentioned something a while ago. If you had to do it again, you perhaps wouldn't self-publish. Why is that?
Because you don't get the promotion. You have to do your own promoting. If you went to
You
a
got to
book,
have a wife that's pretty handy at helping you out in that score. collaring people in Sam's Club and saying, Gordy,
That's the
you
bad thing. You got to get a distributor. You know, if you self-publish, you got to copyright it. I wanted to own my own copyright,
good idea.
and the only way I could own it is to self-publish. If I was to go to a publisher and let them pick up, they would own my title and do whatever they darn sight please with my book. And it's not in my nature to allow somebody to do something like that.
That's why you work for yourself.
That's why I've always worked for myself. Granted, it's not the most rewarding thing in the world. I've sold in excess of 1,000 books right in the area in 4 years and had terrible health and not being able to get out there. But hopefully
But who knows?
this spring I can hitch up the old enclosed trailer, brand new enclosed trailer, and throw all my promotion equipment in, go down to some of these shopping malls, pick up a vendor's license, set my tables up.
Hit the fair.
I'll show you
maybe
how
hit
to,
the fairs.
I'll
or
show
the
you
flea
how to
markets.
sell some books.
Well, you can tell that this guy's not in any way ready to lay it down and give up the ghost, as
Not-
they used to say.
Not
You
through
haven't
it.
even like you said when you took the roof off. We haven't begun to fight.
Oh, no.
But you
It's a work in progress.
but you got a whole package deal.
Well,
You
the
published, I mean, you
advertising
got the-
material is, it has to go with it. You got to be able to take a presentation and give it to the folks. And this includes everything that's on my website. And
Oh,
all,
yeah.
all the information on publication, weights and everything else.
So you had everything to say about how you wanted this to turn out.
At 100% of it.
With the cover, with what's inside. He's even got his own envelopes.
I offer
Gift certificates. Come on.
To anybody that would want to buy a gift certificate or, buy
And
somebody.
they're all numbered.
And yeah, they're numbered, they're certified. And I can ship it to them. And every year, 2 years in a row, I've given out calendars. I've made my own.
Have you really?
And
I love one.
Yeah.
I got one. You sent me a couple.
I sent you two.
Yes, I got one at
Cal-
work. I got one at home.
Calvin needs a couple.
Yeah, he
We'll
got to
make-
have
We'll make
calendars.
sure Calvin gets
Always
one.
need calendars.
And
And I'm always a month behind, aren't you? I looked down. I just flipped
they're-
over
they're-
January
they're-
this morning before I came here.
They're kind of neat because if you go down and you pick up a hardware calendar, it's twice this.
Yeah.
It's some monstrous thing that hangs on the wall that who would want that in their office? So I said, let's have a nice small calendar.
Yeah.
You know?
I got one. I propped right up on the side of my computer tower so that I got it.
So
So-
anyway,
So anyway,
you got to have the promotional material. You got to have it available if you're going out and sell a product.
of course you do. And you've
And
done,
you
you've
got to
done
have
that.
the product itself, So
Yep.
you stack 10 or 12 of these. Take this book, put it under your arm, and walk through the mall. These people do a lot of walking around there for exercising. And I'll guarantee you that within 15 minutes, somebody's going to spot that, cover that book, is going to inquire about it.
And ask somebody about it. You got to be thinking all the time, don't
And
you?
I'll sell that book
Yeah.
because of the quality of the
You were
cover.
going to show me some photographs of the people who inspired the characters.
Yes.
So what do you say we get into that a little
the
bit
two
here?
main characters. In fact, the book is dedicated on the dedication
I
page
noticed that.
is dedicated to this lady right here. And
She's wonderful. Now, what's her name?
her name was Lila Weed, and she was from Chateauguay. It's the mother of Dale Weed,
Ah,
the guy that I worked for in Virginia. And this is her husband, Raymond Weed.
okay.
Now, these two people could be the two main characters in that book.
Really?
They certainly could.
Generally when people write books, they do pattern personalities either at themselves,
Right.
family members, or people they know.
So if you wanted to picture what these two people look like.
From Poland.
He does
and
look
Ireland.
Polish. He's not Polish,
Uh-huh.
but he does look it. I would use these two people for an
Oh,
example.
that's wonderful.
But,
Because you wonder where those things came, where the inspiration comes from. We still haven't figured exactly where that inspiration comes from, but
I haven't either. So when you do, let me know.
you know, something else I want to mention before we leave, it helps to have a good life partner. When you're going down this road of life, and you have one, your wife is like my wife. She's the best promoter of Tom Barber in the whole world. I would like to know a little bit more about how you and Wanda first got together and your
Well,
families. And
Wanda lived in Keysville, in the center of town. Her dad and her dad was a milkman for George Signer for years and years. And when I was growing up, I used to, on weekends, used to go help him deliver milk down in the Douglas area and around town and kind of help him out a little bit because George Signer was that type of person. You know, he
quite
always,
a guy and a
always
dear
had work
friend.
for
I don't
you.
mind. I don't talk about calendars. He used to give me a dog calendar every single year.
I can't say we were childhood sweethearts, but I can say that we've known each other all our life. She used to pedal her bicycle down and
Did you really?
and visit
Oh, I
down
love it.
here, and we were just good friends. And after I got back from the Marine Corps, it was time for me to settle down. I chased her around town
You chased her till she caught you.
a few months until she caught me, and
Yeah, I love it.
and we got married and raised 3 wonderful kids.
Talk about your kids.
The kids, they all live within a half mile of us.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It's a family that's close-knit, very tight. The oldest one is the boy, Ricky. He's general manager of Lake Placid Granite, the quarry in
Yep.
Osable Forks, Minnesota Mining.
Yep.
And he operates that mill up there and has a very good job, a good future. His wife Patty is an LPN. She works for Dr. Clark part-time, the physician here in town.
Okay, we're going to pause for 1 minute, put a new battery in, and we got a new battery in. We're charged. We got the power. Now, you're talking about your kids. You're talking about your second kid.
Okay, the second one is Catherine, or Kathy. She's a barber by trade as well as by name. She lives below us down here, and a fine person. She has a couple of her own children. She's remarried and has a fine family now. My third is a daughter, Deborah, and she's the gal that I can't go out of sight unless she's chasing me down, wanting to know if I'm okay.
You're attached at the hip. Huh?
Second mother, and we fight tooth and nails, but God, we love each other dearly.
And what was Wanda talking about, fighting for something with your granddaughter?
Yeah, my Debbie's youngest, one of Debbie's children, my great-granddaughter.
Great-granddaughter.
Okay, I was doing the sketching. Now, when I did the layout for the dust jacket, I'm not an artist. I took a pencil. I started drawing.
This is an amazing story.
I took
I love it.
photographs. I took photographs with a 35 millimeter camera, developed them, copied them, had a copy machine, blew the copies up till they were in some kind of proportion, threw a piece of paper on top of them and started sketching the outline of the cabin. That's how I come up with these pictures, but I used the actual buildings to design the cover. The design is totally mine. The layout, I got to give credit to Don Kreutz. But and he did a fantastic job. Now the color in the dust jacket is crayons,
Come on.
and that made the color.
Isn't that
And
amazing?
the package of crayons is still in this closet to this day,
Oh, you got to save them.
in bits and pieces. Because my granddaughter, she had, whenever I wanted to do some coloring, she wouldn't move away from me.
Really?
If I wanted that color, I couldn't have it. She was using it.
Oh,
And I fought tooth and nail with this gal to get the color that I wanted. In fact, I used some alternate colors at times to achieve the color that I wanted. So it was an uphill battle to design that dust
always
jacket.
stories and sub-stories and extra stories. and
Absolutely.
always stories. You, Calvin and I were just talking about where the book is available. You mentioned Nancy Donahoe's Cornerstone Bookstore.
The book is available at Cornerstones, at Borders, at Walden Books. It's available on Amazon.com.
Yes.
It's available through
Keysville Pharmacy.
Keysville Pharmacy, Peru Pharmacy, the Corner Store in Elizabethtown, the Riverbend Restaurant has copies of my books down there, and Adirondack Golf and Country Club at the clubhouse has my books in there. So it's not widely promoted. Osceola Chasm has copies, and I've yet to get them in the on the ferries for Lake Champlain
That'd be a good idea.
transportation. But I think I like a lot of advertising and promoting, and shows like this are really going to help my cause.
Well, we're friendly North Country people, and you're a friendly North Country person, and it's a thrill for us not to just help Tom Barber sell his book, but to find out what Tom Barber and Wanda are all about, and to walk through these make-believe we're little tiny people walking
That's-
through the barns and seeing
yeah.
where the stanchions are. And you said you had some other stuff you wanted to show us. What do you got?
I have other items that really got me into it.
Well, let's get over. I see some.
Like that two-seating
You made a lot-
chair is something
The
that
bench?
the bench chair, the wood itself, come from that tree out there in
You've
the ice
gotta be kidding.
the ice storm of '86. Took down part of that tree. You'll see a hole right through it. That's a cherry tree out there. There's the wood that went into that bench. This table over here
your
in front of
right-hand
the
side.
window.
Yeah.
They call it a sofa table.
Right.
It's a high table and very small that's set behind the sofa. I've made several of those. I made several of the benches and give one to each of my children in Christmas time.
Have you really? That's
And,
what a beautiful gift.
The setting that you see out here,
Nook, just well, go ahead. Well, we can walk and talk as we go here.
if you want to, this I designed and built from the benches that I made. I did this about 3 years ago.
Boy, is that beautiful. Who wouldn't love?
And,
They're gonna be standing in line. They're gonna trample your front yard trying to
some
get
of
in
the
there.
work
saying,
I do. And here's some more of the
Oh, look at this.
advertising. These are, you wonder how I made the hinges. And
oh my goodness! Just take a look at
these are just some of the parts, surplus parts, and some of the hinge layout pieces and door pulls and things like that I used, and how I arrived at them and cut them out. These are the spools for the wagon wheels. You'll see
Look at
the
this.
wagon wheels for the buggy. They're all ready to put on.
Oh my goodness! Look at
And
this.
they're all
Now is that glued, or is all each one of those out of one piece, or are they
no,
glued
that's
parts?
all one piece. That's all.
All one
All one
piece? Are
piece.
you kidding me?
Yeah, it's crafted from one piece of material.
And it looks like a wagon wheel. It doesn't look like something a modeler
That it
made.
is. And here's the the famous buggy that you're going to read in your book, that's the buggy. These are the rear seats that you read about, where the kids rode in and went to church on Sunday morning. And this eventually will be the driver and passenger seat. And of course the whipple trees and the wagon tongues and everything else.
And you're starting to carve, I can see over there. You're trying
Okay.
to. You're getting...
I'm trying. That's actually going to be the...
That's way better than I could do already, and it's not even finished
it's very unsatisfactory, but he's going to end up being the donkey.
Oh, those are beautiful. So you have to
And-
keep trying.
When I decided that my farm animals, I'll cut out the first dimension this way on my equipment from the shop, and then I'll start carving and molding, which is actually going to be the pig when I get down to
I
it.
can tell.
Well,
Look at this.
that's going to be my form of carving. This is a chicken laying down.
I love it.
There's a sheep.
Oh, boy. You've captured the hearts and imagination of
Yep.
everybody in the North
There's the
Country.
old roaster.
See, he's right there. I can hear him right now.
He's going to be there.
He'll get us up.
There's a piglet.
Oh, boy.
He's going to be with the pig.
Oh, you got a lot of work to go.
Oh,
right?
I got
You
a lot.
got to hang around for
It's-
another 30, 40 years.
It's a work in
Oh, look at
progress.
that. What an
There's-
interesting
that's a-
view of a
that-
sheep.
That's a sheep.
See, I know that.
And, we aren't through yet.
No, you're not. Like you said, we haven't even begun.
We aren't through yet. There's acres of work to do yet.
Oh, my
But anyway,
goodness.
there's my farm animals. Someday we'll get to them.
What do you got to... Oh, wait a minute. What's this?
This is something
Look at this.
that I did prior to becoming disabled.
Look at this.
And it's probably a reflection of some of the work that I did. I always liked to work in wood. And
Absolutely
it's a
spectacular.
doll carriage made out of solid red oak.
Let me get over here next to you and walk in front of the camera for a second. Look,
And it has
this.
a sunshade.
every little girl is saying, "Oh, Daddy, I want one of those. Will you go talk to Mr. Barber and see if he'll make one for my birthday?" Well, look at the hearts.
Yeah.
Is this glued on now?
Yes, it's good.
What? Where did you get this idea from?
See the action?
I can see the action. You're amazing. Where did you get the idea?
I got it from a picture in a magazine. And I said, I think I can make something like that. And that's just,
Isn't that the way your life
Yes,
has
dear.
been? I think I
Now
can.
what I
think I can make. What's all this stuff?
this is when I go out to
Let me get over here next
when
to
I
you
go
again.
out to book signings and I
Ah,
set my tables up. I made these things,
that's
which actually hold my whatever I want to display. There's the winter scene.
I got it. The arrival of winter at the cabin by the creek.
Or I get right out to the jumbo.
You're a male Grandma Moses. You know that, Tom?
I get right out to the jumbo signs.
Of course. It's for old people like me, so that we can see it from a distance.
Or this is my favorite scene.
What a guy! What a guy this is!
That's my favorite scene.
Oh, look at that! Isn't that wonderful? You got the stone fence. You got the whole 9 yards there, right
So
down
when
to
I-
the well and the mountains. And
When
the,
I lay that out to my book signing, it's an automatic attraction. I mean, I'm going to turn eyes and turn heads.
well, like you said, this show's going on the road. You've only been it's only been 4 years since you wrote this
I
thing.
have other little things that I've built.
Oh, on
If
the
you
walls.
want the welcome signs.
I love it. I love it. And look at this.
And,
I've seen
the
these before too, the
snowman,
door
yeah.
knockers.
Well,
Whoops, we lost something. Oh, I know what that is. That's the one on,
That's just a plugged in.
yeah. That's the door knocker.
But
Well,
I-
that would ring the doorbell too if you had it hooked up, wouldn't it?
Yep, yep, it's already.
Oh, he's got the
already
wiring. Oh,
hooked up.
that's a new idea on an old theme, that's for
I
sure.
Put the thing right over your doorbell.
Put it right over your doorbell.
Yeah, we're gonna really get into this stuff.
That's beautiful.
A couple of years before
Oh, your whole family
I
here?
started,
Yep, see
I
him.
started to write my cabin, or write the book, or work on the cabin. I got into
You've got it. Look at
Thinking
this.
about
Come on.
doing things for the fire department. I said, I'm
235.
an old fireman, and
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
an exact replica of Keysville's newest ambulance.
He's got antennas on it. He's got.
It doesn't open. It's an enclosed vehicle,
Of course it is.
but
You don't want to let the
I
injured
didn't want to
person
get
fall
in
out
there
the
to
door.
do it. But everything functions. It's
When did you do this, Tom?
it's a Ford, of course. Just before
Oh, here he goes. It's a Ford, of course.
just before I started to think about building my cabin, because I was disabled and I had all winter to play around, and I had the silent heart attack in January, but it didn't bother me. I could still keep going, and I did that. Now the detail is actually
Oh, look at this. Yep, you got it.
under here.
You got it. You got the dual wheel on it. You got the muffler and tailpipe and the gas tank and the drivetrain and the transmission and the pan, and you got it all there.
That's 235.
Oh, that's
Now this one
wonderful.
here was so precious. It's my third fire truck that I ever built.
It looks like a wooden box to me.
It is. It was so precious that I had to build the case to go with it, because I think you'll be quite interested in it.
You had my attention an hour and a half ago.
Is that right?
You still got it now. Look
You
at the way he
haven't
built
seen
it.
anything.
Oh my, come on.
Oh,
These little kids are going to be rushing the TV set. Look at this. Look at the hose. Look at the. Oh my gosh.
pull that chair out of the way.
That's all right. We can see it. Doesn't say Keysville Fire Department on it.
You won't see any advertising actually.
Isn't that beautiful?
But
When did you make this one?
I made this
He's
in.
got the chocks for the wheels. He doesn't want it to roll
oh,
off
you
the
gotta have
table.
the chocks, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the water cannon.
You gotta be kidding. Look at that. Oh my
Three
goodness.
connector,
Of course.
hard hose,
Yeah.
fire extinguisher, axes.
And this, wait a minute. When did you say you did this?
Between my disability period that I became totally disabled and my major heart attack. There's 178 feet of clothesline rope in there, hose.
Come on.
There's 26 feet on each spool of live line. And this is the other side.
Look at this. You made the ladders too?
Oh yeah, and it works.
I guess it does work. Look at it.
It works. Everything I make has to function.
Yeah, I know. Look at it.
Everything I make has to function.
Look at this. You can actually lock it at any level. There you go.
Well, it will.
Yes, I know. Look at this.
Everything
Look at this.
starting to know way in now.
Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? Well, you'll never be without things to do. You'll never be without things to do.
It's
And you got a shop where, behind your house?
It's, yeah, behind my garage. I got just about every piece of woodworking equipment that,
Do you have a lot of small tools, small carving tools, or what?
yes.
Just so you can do what you need to
Yeah.
do.
Grinders and
You know, we
drill
don't
press.
realize until we started doing these programs how many people have really cool hobbies. You may be a doctor, a lawyer, a farmer, or somebody you know in another capacity, and all of a sudden you get into his house and he's got all these things to show you and all these wonderful stories.
Well, why
You made the wagon wheels, the lights that
the
we
lights? Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Why
okay.
I mentioned the Ford, this one happens to be a Chevrolet.
I see. Okay, you don't want to be too partial.
Yeah, well, you
Oh,
know.
the windshield wipers go up and
Oh,
down.
they got to function, you know.
Yeah,
Everything.
the
The
wind-
mirrors have got to be adjusted. The lights got to turn.
Oh,
You know,
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. You know what? We're just about out of time. This has been so much fun. It took us a while to get here. When Calvin said you lived on Grove Street, I said, I know how to get there. I know. You just go down the hill and there's woods on both sides and look for the story and a half place on the right and the sign out front that talks about the book and the U-shaped driveway. And besides, if we got lost, Wanda'd be right out in the snowbank saying, over here, come over here. How long have you guys been married?
we've been married coming on 39 years.
Excuse me?
49 years.
I knew I'd get it. I knew I'd.
How many?
We've been married 43.
43 years.
I did.
39 was a good year, though. He was just testing you on. We men
See,
do
I
that.
needed to get her to say
We men
something.
do that all
My
the
voice
time.
is starting to skip a little. So.
We
No.
have 5 beautiful grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren, which of the great-grandchildren, we have twin grandsons.
Oh, isn't that?
Identical twins.
Isn't that
And a
beautiful?
little girl.
You know, and as we're doing this program, and I don't mind promoting our wonderful family too, because you and I and Calvin, everyone agrees that family is what it's all about.
It's,
And our 15th grandchild was just born what would have been yesterday morning in Saranac Lake. So we're pretty happy
isn't that
to have
great?
20 grandchildren. Maybe by the time this is aired, there'll be 21 grandchildren and 15 great-grandchildren. Wanda and
remarkable.
Mr. Barber, thank you so much for what you do. I hope you sell 10,000 books of this beautiful cabin by the creek story before we finish. And maybe if you just keep doing what you're doing, we'll have to come back here and do chapter 2 sometime.
Well, it'd be my pleasure if he
We'd love to
Anytime
do,
you'd
we'd
like
love
to
to do
come
it
back.
sometime because we love creative people.
probably wouldn't be too many secrets that would be exposed, but
Oh no, we have to keep a few of those
Oh, yeah.
secrets, but we'll tell the North Country about the rest of it as it comes to mind. Again, thanks so much for inviting us here on a snowy day in February 2004, and who knows where we're going to be next time for our little corner